I've really been getting into geometric art, and I've found this pattern that I saw lots of people do, and I wanted to work out how to construct it myself. So this is the method that I've worked out just based on looking at it. And yeah, it may not be the easiest method, there may be a much simpler way to do this, but this is what I figured out. So I'm going to start with the compasses and draw a circle. And then I'm going to divide my circle into 6 and then 12 and then 24. So I can start, I'm going to pick a starting point, and it could be anywhere, but I'm going to measure how far in my point in from the side was, and then make a mark at the top at the same distance. Just to keep things neat. Now, without changing the compass width, I should be able to use the compasses to divide the circle into 6. And if I'm right, that should meet there. Whoa, I think it could be better. And then I'm going to join all those together. Now to divide each of these sections in half, and I'm just going to reduce the size of the compasses a little bit and then find the hole that I was using before, make a little mark just beyond the circle on both sides, and then when I move the compasses round, and do that at every point. Where the two lines meet should be exactly halfway. And we'll join all those together through the centre. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing again for each of these smaller sections. And I think that's all I need the compasses for now. I think everything else is just the ruler and the pencil. Right, at every other point on the circle is going to be the edge of a square, and the square is going to come down to this line here. So you'll end up with a square here, a square here, a square here, and a square here. So to do that, I'm going to join the points here to the one at 12 o'clock to the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. I'm going to draw like a diamond there. But I'm only going to draw the line up to the point. So I've drawn just one segment and then just one segment there. Let's do that again. I'll do this one. You can draw the line the whole way if you want to, if you're just using with pencil, and then go over with pen. You end up with all these extra lines that you don't need and can be a bit confusing. So I'm just going to draw one section at a time. And here, now to make these squares complete, I just need to join the bottom bits. So this square here has a line that goes down to here and it will go down to this centre line. And then this square here will have a line that goes on there. So if I join the 2 points where they cross that line, and again just draw one segment at a time. Like that. And then if I draw this one here, I'll complete that square there. And this one here. There we go. That's the first 4 squares. Now I need to do the same thing kind of again twice. So I'm going to start here and go to here. So I've skipped 2 sections and now I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. So there's the first row of squares complete. What I really like about this pattern is that it kind of has a fractally nature to it, in that no matter how many iterations you are, the scale is always the same, so the ratio of the centre will always correspond to the ratio of the squares. You can make this and it'll fit inside itself. Just by making it smaller and smaller and smaller, and it'll kind of tend to infinity in the centre of the circle. So you can make this as many times as you like into the centre and you'll never reach the middle. You will, of course, lose some definition at some point. you'll see that the sides of the squares are all joining around here. So I need to make the next row of squares, and I'm going to make these in the gaps. And the side of the square is going to be at the bottom tip here. So I can make that next square by joining the bottom tips together. So I've got a tip of a square here and a tip of a square here. And if I join those together, I don't join them in the middle, I join them on the outside. That one's not quite right. And that's the start of the next set of squares. That's it. So that's the start of my next row of squares. And again, I've kind of gone round a quarter of the circle each time. And when you place your ruler down, you're kind of looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of gaps in the middle between the segments that you're drawing. And then I can complete those squares by joining the bottom tips of the squares in the previous row together and drawing a line down to that central line. Let's carry on doing that. And again, I'll carry on drawing those squares around the circle. My next one, I want to join this tip of this one to that tip of that one. So I'm going to do one more ring in here, but you can keep going. You can keep adding smaller and smaller rings of squares, and you get closer and closer to the centre. You'll never get into the centre because there'll always be a centre. You could just keep going forever, adding smaller and smaller rings. Of course, you'll run out of the ability to see what you're doing at some point. So you do the third and subsequent rings in exactly the same way as you've done the second one. So here are the 3 rings of squares in a circle, and I'm going to ink this now. So I've got a Fineliner pen and I'm just going to go around the edges, and this is just so I can get rid of my pencil guidelines and just see the design a bit more clearly. So having made this construction, I think that there are a few variations that I could try. One is that I've got 12 squares in each of my rings, and I think it's quite possible to do different numbers of squares in the rings. So you could maybe imagine like 8 squares around the circle, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that would mean dividing the circle into 16 to start with, rather than 24. And then that makes me think, oh well, I could divide it into 32 and have how many rings would that be? That would be 16 rings. I mean 16 squares in the ring. So I may have a go at those at some point. I think as long as it divides by 4 it'll work, but I may be wrong on that. And also, if you have a number that doesn't divide by 4, you may be able to do the same kind of pattern, but you wouldn't get squares, you'd get like a slightly irregular polygon instead of a square. So I might try that as well. A couple of little variations. You could, of course, do your inclines with a ruler. I think if they're small enough, I like to do them freehand. Once they get a little bit bigger than this, then they become quite hard to draw straight freehand, and I'd switch to using a ruler. But for this size, I think this is okay. So that's how I've been constructing this circle of squares pattern. It may not be the most efficient method of construction, and if you know a better one, then please do let me know in the comments. Over the next few weeks I'm going to be working with this pattern some more and doing something more decorative and interesting with it, and then hopefully if I come up with something I really like, I'll be making a screen print of it, so I'll show you the process for that too. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks, bye bye.